There's something hauntingly beautiful about the moment before a legend begins, the quiet before the storm, the breath before the flame. Tonight, we step into that stillness, into the frozen wastes of the north, where the wind carries whispers of a destiny about to awaken. Can you feel it? The air is thick with ancient magic, the kind that stirs in the bones of the earth and the hearts of dragons. And somewhere, deep beneath the ice and snow, a single egg trembles. Inside, a young dragon stirs, his golden eyes already dreaming of fire and gold. This is where our story begins with Smaug. We'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Are you curled up under blankets as the stars peek through your window, or perhaps drifting off to the sound of rain tapping against the glass? Let us know in the comments below and tell us what time your journey into rest begins. Because tonight, we're not just telling a story, we're stepping into a world where legends are born, where the line between myth and reality blurs like smoke on the wind. And Smaug's tale is one that will linger long after the final ember fades. Imagine the crack of ice, the shift of scales against stone. The egg that holds him is no ordinary shell. It's a vessel of destiny, etched with the weight of centuries. His mother, a worm of the gray mountains, coils around him, her voice a low rumble as she speaks of their kin's glory. She tells him of halls piled high with treasure, of kingdoms that trembled at the shadow of wings, and his heart, still new, still fierce, beats faster. He doesn't just hear these stories, he devours them. The hunger inside him isn't just for warmth or meat. It's for something far greater, for legacy, for power. And as the first crack splits the egg, as the icy wind howls in warning, Smaug emerges, his scales still soft, his wings still folded, but his eyes already burning with the promise of fire. This is the moment the world should have feared. This is the moment everything changes. The first time Smaug's wings catch the wind, it's not grace that carries him, it's sheer will. The air bites at his scales, the cold so sharp it feels like teeth, but he doesn't falter. His mother's voice booms behind him, patient and proud, as he tumbles through the sky, each clumsy beat of his wings a lesson etched in fire and frost. She shows him how to dive for elk, how to coil his tail for balance, how to let the flames gather low in his throat before unleashing them in a roar that turns snow to steam. And though he learns, though he obeys, his golden eyes keep drifting southward, where the horizon hums with a promise he can't ignore. The elder dragons speak of Erebor in voices like distant thunder, a mountain so rich its veins gleam like rivers under moonlight, halls where jewels spill like water, and gold carpets the stone. They call it the birthright of their kind, a throne waiting for wings strong enough to claim it, and with every whispered word, Smaug's restlessness grows. The northern wastes, vast and empty, begin to feel like chains. Why should he hunt scraps of frost-bitten game when kingdoms ripe for taking lie beyond the mountains? Why should he sleep on ice when he could coil atop a hoard that would make the stars themselves seem dim? His mother sees the hunger in him, not just for meat, but for more. She warns him of men and their arrows, of dwarves and their cunning, but her words only stoke the embers in his chest. He listens, nods, even practices his hunting as she bids. But when she sleeps, he climbs the highest peaks and stares into the darkness, his wings twitching with impatience. The wind carries scents he's never known: iron, smoke, the tang of worked metal, and something deep within him stirs. This is not jealousy. not greed. It's the pull of a destiny too vast to ignore. The north was never his home. It was only ever a cradle, and a dragon does not stay in the cradle forever. The crunch of snow under heavy boots echoes through the valley, a sound so foreign it makes Smaug's scales prickle. Hidden among the jagged rocks, he watches as the dwarves trudge forward, their beards crusted with frost, their packs straining with the weight of pickaxes and rough-cut gems. They speak in hushed, eager tones of Erebor's halls of gold, piled so high it could drown a dragon, of the Arkenstone gleaming like a captured star. Smaug's tail twitches, his breath curling into the air in thin, impatient tendrils. These intruders carry more than tools, they carry proof. His mother's warning slithers through his mind like cold water. Dwarves dig traps as deftly as they dig mines. Their kind felled dragons twice his size with cunning and crossbows, but the scent of the dwarves' treasure, sweet as smoke, sharp as blood, drowns out her voice. One of them laughs, shaking a pouch that sings with the chime of emeralds, and something primal uncoils in Smaug's chest. This is no mere hunt. This is a sign. When darkness falls, the dwarves huddle around their fire, unaware of the golden eyes reflecting the flames from the cliffs above. Smaug counts their numbers, studies their weapons, but his gaze lingers on the oldest among them, a grizzled prospector who traces a map with a trembling finger, whispering of secret passages beneath the lonely mountain. The words settle in Smaug's mind like kindling. He could burn them all now, reduce their trinkets to molten pools, but ashes hold no treasure. No, he needs more than their gold. He needs their knowledge. The wind shifts, carrying the dwarves' fear as Smaug finally moves, his wings slicing through the night like a dagger through silk. They won't see him, not yet. Let them lead him to the riches they've promised. Let them dig their own graves, or better still, dig his throne. The night air shudders with the first true roar of Smaug's flames, not the playful bursts of his youth, but a torrent of fire so fierce it turns snow to steam in an instant. The dwarves' shouts die as quickly as they begin, their pickaxes clattering to the ground like fallen teeth. Their gold, so proudly displayed moments before, now pools in glowing, liquid ribbons around blackened bones. Smaug lands among the wreckage, his claws sinking into molten treasure, and for the first time, he understands the weight of power. But conquest is not silent. As the smoke curls toward the stars, the dwarves' final words cling to him like scorched parchment. Not pleas, not prayers, curses. They speak of vengeance, of heirs who will hunt him, of kingdoms that rise when dragons fall. Their voices should be ash on the wind, yet they settle in the hollows of his mind, whispering a truth he cannot scorch away. Fire makes corpses, but fear makes kings. He laps at the spilled gold, the metal bitter with the taste of charred flesh, and something shifts in him. The north has taught him hunger. The dwarves have taught him war. Now the horizon calls with a darker lesson. To claim what he desires, he must become more than a predator. He must become a nightmare woven into stone, a shadow that stifles all hope. The lonely mountain waits, its riches ripe for claiming, but its halls are built by dwarven hands that remember how to fight. With a beat of his wings, Smaug leaves the smoldering camp behind, the wind carrying him southward. Below him, the land changes. Rocky crags give way to thick forests, then to the flickering lights of villages too small to name. he does not stoop to burn them. Not yet. Let them see his shape against the moon, and tell their children of the dragon that passed like fate itself. Let them tremble before he ever lands. The stars wheel overhead as he flies, but Smaug does not navigate by them. His path is written in the scent of dwarven forges, in the distant glint of rivers heavy with gold dust. Every mile stokes the furnace in his chest. He is no longer the restless worm of the northern wastes. He is the storm gathering before the scream, and Erebor, with its unguarded treasures and its sleeping throne, will learn what it means to be claimed. The journey south is a slow carving of fire, and shadow Smaug slithers through mountain passes like smoke, his wings folded tight, his belly scraping the earth where the trees grow too thick for flight. The elves, with their moonlit arrows and songs that prick at his ears, are the first to test him. He learns their patrols, counting the seconds between their footsteps, how their lanterns sway in the wind. When he strikes, it is not with the roar they expect, but a breath so silent it melts the snow before they feel the heat. Their silver blades shatter against his thickening scales, and the taste of their fear is sweeter than the charred meat left behind. Men are easier prey, their villages lit like beacons in the dark. They scream when his shadow blots out the stars, but their thatch burns too quickly, their stone walls crumble too easily. Their kings send knights in glittering armor, and Smaug humors them, letting their lances scratch his underbelly before he flings them aside like broken toys. Each victory feeds the furnace in his chest. Each pile of melted gold adds weight to his wings. He begins to measure his worth in the wails of widows, the silence of scorched fields. But the wind carries more than ash. At night, when the stars are sharp as daggers, he hears the name Girion hissed in taverns and guard towers. A line of dragon slayers, their arrows tipped with black iron, their bloodline sworn to his ruin. The first time an arrow grazes his flank, deeper than it should, burning where it touches, he roars not in pain, but in fury. Who dares mark him? Who dares remember what should be forgotten? The wound heals, but the doubt lingers like a burr between his scales. He climbs higher now, sleeps less, studies the land with a dragon's patience and a thief's cunning. The lonely mountain looms in the distance, its peak veiled in clouds, but the path to it is lined with more than treasure. There are hands here that remember how to draw a bow, tongues that still shape the old curses. Smaug's fire burns hotter, his wings beat stronger, yet for the first time, he wonders not if he can take the mountain, but if he can hold it. The ruins of Dale sprawl beneath Smaug's wings like a broken crown, its shattered towers clawing at the sky in jagged silhouette. The scent of old ash and human sweat rises from the streets, stirring memories of dragons long dead, their fires spent, their bones ground to dust. But Smaug is no ghost of the past. He is the living flame, and as his shadow swallows the sun, the townsfolk scatter like mice before a prowling cat. Their screams are music, their panic a feast finer than any gold. He circles lower, savoring the way mothers clutch children to their chests, how strong men falter and drop their tools. This is power, not just to kill, but to make hearts race with a single beat of his wings. Then, a flicker of defiance. A lone figure stands atop a crumbling wall, bowstring drawn taut. Smaug's laughter rumbles like distant thunder. What is this? A man with a stick, daring to challenge him. The arrow looses with a whisper, and for a breath, It seems as insignificant as a gnat's sting until it bites. The pain is sharp, sudden, a white-hot needle driven between his scales. Smaug reels midair, his roar shaking loose stones from the ruins. Blood, dark as molten ore, wells beneath his belly. The wound is shallow, a scratch, but the insult burns deeper. The archer knocks another arrow, his face pale but set. Around him, others hesitate, their fear mingling with something dangerous hope. Smaug's wings beat hard, lifting him higher, away from their pitiful reach. This is not how the tale ends, not with a mortal's arrow, not with a wound that will heal before dawn. But as he turns toward the horizon, the lonely mountain, a smudge of shadow in the distance, a new hunger gnaws at him, not for treasure, not for terror. For certainty, he will return not as a specter, but as a storm. Let Dale's people whisper of their fleeting victory. Let them mend their walls and sharpen their arrows. When he comes again, their courage will melt like wax in his jaws, their defiance reduced to ashes on the wind. The mountain waits, its halls ripe for claiming, but first, he will teach these insects the cost of drawing a dragon's blood. The sky darkens as he flies, his tail lashing like a whip. The next time they see his shadow, it will blot out the sun. The gray mountains loom like the ribs of a long-dead beast, their peaks jagged with age, their valleys choked with the bones of lesser dragons. Smaug slithers through the winding caverns, his scales whispering against stone, his nostrils flaring at the scent of ancient gold and older wisdom. He finds Scatha coiled atop a mound of tarnished treasure, the old drake's once gleaming hide dulled by time, his wings draped like tattered banners over the spoils of forgotten wars. The air here is thick with the weight of centuries, with the slow, labored breath of a creature who has seen empires rise and burn. Scatha's voice is a dry rasp, the sound of embers crumbling to ash. You reek of ambition, little flame, he murmurs, one golden eye cracking open. I know why you've come. The mountain whispers to you, doesn't it? Calls to that hollow place in your chest. Smaug's tail lashes, scattering coins in a metallic hiss. He expected a sage, a warrior, not this withered relic. Yet when Scatha speaks again, his words slither like smoke, carrying the weight of prophecy. Gold is a chain, he says, and those who wear it too heavily are doomed. You think it will make you a king. It will make you a target, a statue, a corpse. For a heartbeat, Smaug hesitates. The cavern seems to press closer, the shadows alive with the ghosts of dragons who once thought themselves invincible. Then his lip curls, revealing teeth sharper than Scatha's warnings. You mistake caution for wisdom, he growls. Your time is done. The world belongs to those who take it. The old drake sighs, a sound like wind through dead leaves, and closes his eyes, as if the sight of Smaug's gleaming youth is too bitter to bear. That night, while the wind howls through the mountain's throat, Smaug moves. There is no battle, no glorious clash of fire and fang, only the quiet slide of claws against scales grown thin with age, the wet gasp of breath stolen before it can become a warning. Scatha's blood seeps into his own hoard, the gold drinking it greedily, as if the treasure itself remembers the taste. Smaug coils atop the newly claimed riches, his belly pressed to metal still warm from the old drake's body. The silence is absolute, no counsel, no challenge, only the whisper of his own heartbeat, steady and sure. By dawn, the deed is done. The last voice of reason is snuffed out. and the mountain's winds carry only one truth: Smaug is no longer a dragon. He is a force, a reckoning, and the lonely mountain's halls, ripe with the promise of gold and glory, will soon learn the cost of defying him. Word travels faster than dragon fire, carried on the trembling lips of merchants and the hushed prayers of refugees. Smaug's name becomes a curse, a hissed warning between dwarven sentries as they pace the battlements of Erebor, their axes gleaming under torchlight. The great gates, carved with runes of warding and layered with iron, stand closed against the world. King Thror boasts that no flame can crack them, no claw can pry them open. He speaks of ancient craftsmanship, of stone that has weathered centuries, but stone does not sweat, stone does not tremble, the dwarves do. Smaug watches from the high crags, his golden eyes slit with amusement. He counts their shifts, marks the gaps in their patrols, notes how their lanterns gutter in the wind. He learns the rhythm of their fear, the way they pause too long at the eastern gate, where the rock is weakest, the way their songs grow ragged when the winter winds howl. They trust their mountain like a mother's embrace, but Smaug knows better. Every fortress has a breath, a heartbeat, and hearts can be stopped. The storm comes at midnight, a blizzard so thick it swallows sound. The dwarves huddle inside, their braziers flickering, their laughter strained. They do not hear the scrape of scales against the mountainside. They do not see the shadow pooling at their gates. Then heat, a searing, sudden wave that turns snow to steam, that makes the iron hinges groan like dying beasts. The runes glow red, then white, then melt into slag. The first blast of flame licks through the cracks, tasting the air inside. The second tears the gates apart. What follows is not battle, it is harvest. Smaug moves through the halls like a scythe through wheat, his fire painting the walls in liquid gold. Dwarves stumble, blinded, their armor cooking their flesh. Some raise shields, the metal drips through their fingers. Others flee deeper into the mountain, only to find the tunnels choked with smoke. Their king's throne, heaped with jewels, becomes a pyre. Their treasuries, so carefully guarded, flow in rivers between Smaug's claws. By dawn, the silence is absolute. The wind carries the stench of scorched stone and charred bone, but no cries, no clang of hammers. Only the slow, satisfied rumble of Smaug's breath as he coils atop the glittering wreckage. The mountain's heartbeat is his now. Its halls, its gold, its very bones belong to him. And as the sun rises over the ashes of Dale, gilding his wings in bloody light, the last thing the fleeing survivors see is the gleam of his smile, a promise, sharp as a drawn blade. No one will take this from him, no one dares. The years stretch like molten gold beneath Smaug's coils, each season bleeding into the next without note. Erebor's halls, once echoing with dwarven chants and hammer strikes, now hold only the dry rustle of shifting treasure and the slow drip of his breath. He counts his wealth not in coins, but in centuries. How many winters have passed since he last tasted fear? How many kings have crumbled to dust while he lounged atop their ancestors' bones? His scales, once polished by battle, grow dull under layers of gem dust and complacency. Even fire comes sluggishly now, thick as syrup in his throat. He tells himself this is power, to nap atop a hoard so vast it would blind lesser creatures, to wake only when the mountain shivers with the footsteps of some foolhardy thief. But the thieves are fewer now. The legends of his wrath have done their work too well. Men speak his name in curses, dwarves in whispers, and the land around the mountain withers as if scorched by his mere presence. The silence should be sweet, instead it itches. Then come the dreams, not the proud visions of his youth, no flights over burning cities, no rivers of gold, but fragments. The ice-crusted crags of the north, where the wind carries voices too faint to grasp. His mother's warning, warped by time into something colder, sharper. A shadow moving against the snow, too vast to be wolf or man. He wakes with a start, his tail lashing, sending a cascade of rubies clattering down the treasury slopes. The mountain is still, the gold is his, yet for the first time in an age, his claws dig into the treasure not with possession, but with something perilously close to doubt. He scoffs, shaking the feeling off like water. What does the north know of dragons? What do dreams know of power? But the unease lingers, a pebble in the bed of his contentment. That night, he burns a village not for gold, not for sport, but to prove he still can. The flames rise obediently, the screams pierce the dark. Yet as he circles back toward Erebor, his wings feel heavier than they should. The wind carries a scent he cannot place, something old and sharp, like iron buried in snow. By the time he returns to his hoard, the dream is waiting. This time, the shadow has eyes. They are not afraid. They are patient. Smog roars, shaking the mountain, scattering bats from the highest arches. The sound should be thunder. It feels, just for a breath, like the cry of something smaller, something mortal. He stills, his pulse hammering beneath his scales. Impossible. He is Smaug the terrible, Smaug the unassailable. And yet the gold beneath him feels suddenly cold. The mountain, once a fortress, feels like a cage. Somewhere far to the north, a storm gathers. It does not care how many treasures he guards. It only knows that all dragons, in the end, must answer to winter. The air in Erebor's treasury shifts. A whisper of fabric against stone, the faintest scuff of leather on gold. Smaug's eyelids, heavy with centuries of sleep, slid open. The intruder is small, smaller than a dwarf, quieter than an elf. A thief, then, how quaint. The dragon's tail twitches, sending a ripple through the coins beneath him, but he does not rise, not yet. Let the creature taste hope first. Let it believe it's unseen. The hobbit, for that's what he is, though Smaug has never smelled his kind, before picks his way through the treasure with absurd delicacy. His feet barely dent the drifts of coins. His hands flinch from jewels as if they burn. Strange, thieves usually drown in greed by now. Smaug exhales, slow and silent, letting the heat of his breath warp the air around the hobbit's ankles. The little thing freezes. Ah, there it is. The hitch in his pulse, the sweat beating on his neck. Delicious. Tell me, thief. Smaug purrs, his voice like embers grinding together. Do you think yourself invisible? The hobbit whirls, eyes wide, but remarkably he does not scream, does not run. Instead, he swallows and offers a wobbly bow. And not at all. O Smaug the Magnificent, he stammers. Only terribly insignificant compared to your splendor. Flattery, how predictable, yet the dragon's scales prickle. The hobbit's voice lacks the usual quavering terror. There's a thread of something else beneath it. Calculation. Smaug uncoils, his bulk scattering towers of goblets, his shadow swallowing the hobbit whole. You smell of dwarves, he muses, circling, of damp wool and cheap wine, but also riddles. The hobbit's fingers tighten around something in his pocket. A weapon, no, too small, too soft. Smaug leans closer, his breath singeing the hobbit's curls. What do they promise you? A share of my gold, a hero's song. The hobbit hesitates, then impossibly he smiles. Actually, I was rather hoping for a conversation. Fire gathers in Smaug's throat, ready to reduce this insolent speck to ash. But the hobbit continues. They say you're the last of the great dragons, that none remain who can match your wit. A pause, a tilt of the head, but I've always wondered, do you ever miss it? The challenge, the flames die unshed. Centuries of solitude, of unchallenged dominion, rise like bile in Smaug's chest. No one has dared speak to him thus. No one has thought to ask. The hobbit's words are needles, slipping between his scales, finding the soft places he forgot existed. Smaug laughs, a sound like boulders cracking. You play a dangerous game, little one. The hobbit shrugs. All good stories need a bit of danger. And just like that, the balance shifts. The dragon, who has spent ages as the undisputed terror of this mountain, feels something unfamiliar, not anger, not hunger. Interest. The hobbit's courage is a spark in the dark, and Smaug, for all his might, finds himself leaning toward it. He could crush him now, should. But where's the sport in that? Instead, he settles back, his tail curling like a satisfied cat's. Very well, thief, entertain me. The game begins. The golden cup is gone. Not a treasure worth noticing, hardly a crumb from his endless feast, but its absence burns hotter than any dwarf-forged blade. Smaug's tail lashes, sending a tidal wave of coins crashing against the cavern walls. The thief's scent lingers, mocking him, a trail of sweat and pipeweed leading to the narrowest crack in the stone, a crack he cannot follow, a crack he never noticed. Fire erupts from his jaws in a furious arc, painting the ceiling black. How long had the hobbit been here? How many secrets had those wide, innocent eyes stolen? The words slither back into his skull, sharp as a dagger's edge. Every dragon has his flaw, nonsense, poison, and yet his claws scrape against his own belly, probing the spaces between his scales. The old wound from Gerion's arrow is long healed, but the memory of pain lingers. What if the hobbit saw something? What if he told the others? The mountain groans as Smaug surges upward, his wings battering the air like storm winds. He crashes through forgotten tunnels, his snout tearing at loose stones, his breath scorching every shadow. No more games, no more patience. The dwarves will come now. He knows it in his bones. They've sent their little spy, their soft-footed burglar, and they'll be bold enough to follow, but let them. He coils atop his hoard, his mind racing faster than his flames. The gold shifts beneath him, whispering of betrayal. How many other cracks snake through his fortress? How many hands have dipped into his treasury while he slept? His paranoia takes root, spreading like rot through ancient wood. He counts his jewels, his armor, his teeth searching for weakness, for the flaw the hobbit dared to name. Outside, the wind carries the distant clang of hammers. The dwarves are coming, and Smaug, for the first time in centuries, feels something colder than gold pressing against his ribs. Not fear, never fear, but the gnawing, relentless itch of doubt. The next thief won't leave alive. The next insult won't go unanswered. He'll peel the flesh from their bones and hang their skins from the gates as a warning. And yet, as the first stars pierce the high windows of the treasuries, Smaug's gaze flicks again to the shadows, waiting, watching, wondering if the hobbit's laughter still echoes somewhere in the dark. The night air over Lake Town shivers with the weight of impending doom, thick with the scent of fish oil and fear. Smaug's wings blot out the moon as he circles lower, his shadow swallowing the flickering lanterns below. The wooden piers groan under his weight as he lands, his claws sinking into rooftops like kindling. For a breath, there is silence, the terrible, trembling quiet before the storm breaks. Then his jaws part, and the world burns. Fire rolls through the streets in liquid waves, turning homes to blackened skeletons, the lake itself boiling where the flames touch. Children scream, men stumble blindly through smoke, and the air fills with the stench of scorched wood and melting rope. Smaug drinks it all in, the chaos, the terror, the way the very ground seems to writhe beneath him. This is justice. This is vengeance. Let the dwarves see what becomes of those who shelter thieves. Let them choke on the ashes of their allies, and then, a voice. Not a plea, not a sob, but a challenge. Turn your gaze here, worm. Bard stands atop the bell tower, his bow drawn taut, his face lit by the inferno. The wind whips his cloak like a battle standard, and in his eyes, Smaug sees something that makes his scales tighten, not fear, but determination. The arrow's tip glints with a light that doesn't come from the fire. Something old, something deadly. Smaug's laugh shakes the ruins. A descendant of Girion, he sneers, smoke curling between his teeth. Your ancestors died clutching their bows. Shall I make you a pyre to join them? He coils, ready to bathe the tower in flame, but Bard's arrow flies faster. It strikes not with the sting of a bee, but the bite of ice. The pain is immediate, blinding, a cold so deep it sears. Smaug roars, twisting in midair, his wings beating frantically as the chill spreads through his veins. The black arrow, forged in the heart of the mountain, tempered with dragon's blood, has found its mark. His left foreleg goes numb, then his shoulder. The lake churns below as he falters, his fire guttering in his throat. Bard knocks another arrow, his hands steady despite the carnage. Every beast has its weakness. He shouts over the wind. Even you. Smaug's vision blurs. The sky tilts. For the first time in his long, terrible life, the dragon feels the weight of the earth calling him down, not in triumph, not in glory, but in defeat. His wings falter, his breath comes in ragged gusts, and as the second arrow finds its home, Smaug the terrible, the unassailable, the last great dragon of the north, plummets. The water swallows him whole. The flames of Lake Town dance on the waves above, their reflection twisting in his golden eyes until the light goes out, and the world is left to reckon with the silence that follows. The black arrow strikes true, its deadly tip piercing through scale and sinew to find the heart of the dragon. Smaug's roar shakes the ruins of Lake Town, not in fury, but in something far worse, surprise. Fire erupts from his jaws in a final, uncontrolled torrent, scorching the sky itself as his wings thrash against the weight of his own failing body. The world tilts. The stars blur, The lake rises to meet him, its surface shattered by the impact of his golden bulk, water rushing to swallow the flames that once made kings tremble. For a moment, there is only silence beneath the waves. The great beast sinks, his scales dimming, his fire snuffed out like a candle in a storm. The currents twist around him, pulling him deeper, as if the lake itself is eager to bury the last of his kind. And in that final darkness, Smaug does not see the hoard he guarded so jealously, nor the mountain he claimed as his throne. Instead, his mind drifts northward, to the frozen crags where his egg once lay, to the voice of his mother humming through the blizzard winds. Pride is a flame that burns the bearer. She had warned, her tail coiled around him as the snow fell. The greatest dragons are not those who take, but those who endure. How small those words seemed then, how vast they feel now. Above the water, the survivors of Lake Town wade through the wreckage, their faces streaked with soot and tears. The dragon's shadow is gone, but the scars of his reign will linger for generations. Yet even as they mourn, the wind carries a whisper not of fire, but of ice. Far beyond the reach of men, beyond the ruins of Dale and the lonely mountains' hollow halls, the northern wastes stir, the snow shifts, the air thrums. And somewhere, deep beneath the frozen earth, an ember glows in the dark. The age of dragons is not over, it has only been waiting. The cheers of Lake Town rise like sparks from the smoldering ruins, a chorus of relief and ragged triumph that cuts through the smoke. Bard stands at the water's edge, his bow still clutched in blistered hands, the echoes of his shot still ringing in the ears of those who witnessed it. Children cling to their parents, not yet daring to believe the shadow that haunted their nightmares is truly gone. But as the dragon's carcass sinks deeper into the lake, the water hissing where it touches his cooling scales, the celebration feels hollow. Victory, it seems, tastes of ash and brine. Bard's shoulders sag under the weight of something heavier than exhaustion. The people press around him, calling him hero, slayer, savior, but their voices are edged with a hunger he knows too well. The same hunger that glittered in the dwarves' eyes when they spoke of Erebor's gold, the same hunger that felled kings and birthed dragons. He looks down at the black arrow's mate, still strapped to his quiver, and wonders if any weapon can pierce the greed now stirring in the hearts of men. Across the water, the lonely mountain looms, its peaks gilded by dawn. The dwarves will return, of course. They'll pick through the rubble of Dale. They'll whisper of secret doors and unclaimed treasure. But the halls of Erebor are not empty, not truly. Smaug may be gone, but his legacy lingers in the scorch marks on the stone, in the way the very air seems to hum with avarice. Gold has a way of whispering, of twisting hands into claws and hearts into vaults. And beneath the lake, where the light cannot reach, the dragon's body settles among the silt and bones. The water is cold here, colder than the northern wastes where he first hatched. His fire is spent, his wings stilled, but the treasure he guarded, the cursed, gleaming hoard remains. Waiting, the people of Lake Town will speak of this day for generations, but they'll forget the oldest lesson of all. A dragon's death is never the end. It's only the kindling for the next fire. Somewhere, far from the morning and the revelry, a wind stirs across the ice. It carries no scent of smoke, no tang of metal. Only the quiet, relentless chill of winter, and beneath it, something stirs, not a dragon, not yet, but the world turns and fire, like greed, knows how to wait. The halls of the Valor shimmer with an otherworldly glow, their vast arches echoing with the whispers of dragons long departed. Here, where time bends like molten gold, the spirits of the great worms coil in restless slumber, their scales no longer gleaming, their fire reduced to embers in the eternal twilight. Smaug's name drifts among them like smoke, not with the thunderous reverence reserved for conquerors, but with a hushed, mournful cadence. Pride's fool, they murmur, their voices rustling like dry parchment. Gold makes a poor crown for a creature born of flame. The youngest spirits, those who fell in battles forgotten by men, flicker with uneasy recognition. They remember the hunger that gnawed at Smaug's heart, the hollow ache no horde could fill, but the eldest among them, the dragons who watched continents rise and crumble, only sigh. They have seen this tale before, yet even as the Valor's halls hum with lament, the earth far below stirs, deep in the frozen womb of the northern wastes, where glaciers grind against bedrock and the wind sings of older, darker things. A tremor runs through the ice. The mortals who dare to tread those blighted lands speak of strange lights beneath the permafrost, of steam rising where no fire burns. They are wrong, of course. It is not fire they sense, not yet, but the bones of the world remember the weight of wings, the sear of breath that could melt stone, and bones, given time, can stir. Somewhere beyond the reach of gods and men, a shadow shifts in the depths of a long-sealed cavern. The air, their tastes of sulfur and spoiled promises. The walls, scored by ancient claws, begin to weep droplets of molten stone, and if one were to press an ear to the frozen ground, they might hear it, a heartbeat, slow and stubborn, sinking with the pulse of the distant magma veins. The dragons of the north were never truly gone. They were waiting for the arrogance of kings to bloom ripe for plucking, waiting for the memory of fear to fade from the hearts of men. High above, the Valor's whispers falter. A gust of wind, too warm for paradise, slithers between the pillars. The spirits of the dead dragons lift their heads, their eyes, though long stripped of fire, narrowing in uneasy recognition. The balance has been disturbed. Somewhere, a seal has cracked, and the world, so certain it had outgrown the age of monsters, draws in a breath it does not yet know it will scream out. Years melt into the land like snow into thirsty earth, and the world, as it always does, forgets. The people of Dale rebuild their walls. Their children grow tall without knowing the weight of a dragon's shadow, and even the lonely mountain's scars fade under layers of moss and time. But the gray mountains remember. Their peaks, sharp as broken teeth, guard secrets older than kings. On a morning thick with mist, a shepherd named Bryn tracks a stray lamb through the high passes, his boots crunching on frost-rimed stone. The air smells of pine and damp earth until it doesn't, until something metallic tingles at the back of his throat, something that makes the hair on his neck prickle. Then he sees it, a glint of gold winking between the rocks, brighter than any sun-caught quartz. His breath hitches. Treasure, a lost trinket from some long-dead traveler. He kneels, fingers brushing the cold stone, and the ground moves. Not the shudder of a loose boulder, not the groan of settling earth. This is something alive. Something breathing. Heat pulses upward, thawing the frost in an instant, and the rocks beneath his palms grow warm as fresh baked bread. Bryn scrambles back, his heart hammering against his ribs. The lamb bleats in alarm, bolting down the slope, But Bryn cannot look away. The gold trembles, then it blinks. A laugh rolls through the pass, deep enough to shake pebbles from the cliffs. It's not a sound meant for mortal ears. It's the chuckle of a predator who's grown bored of hiding. Bryn runs. He does not look back when the rocks behind him split open with a sound like 100 trees snapping. He does not turn when the air fills with the stink of sulfur and something sweet, something like burning honey, but he hears it, the slow, deliberate drag of scales against stone. The creak of wings stretching after centuries of sleep. By the time Bryn stumbles into his village, his lips cracked with thirst and his cloak singed at the edges, the first plumes of smoke are already rising from the mountain. The elders gather, their faces gray with dread. They speak of old stories, of winters that began with a single warm wind. But Bryn, still trembling, knows the truth. The dragon in the tales, the one they said was slain, the one whose bones should be rotting at the bottom of the lake, never truly died. Fire cannot drown. It only waits, and high above, where the smoke curls into the shape of a crown, something golden watches the village's panic with a hunger that has no name. A whisper of scales against stone, the barest ripple of shadow. Then she steps forward, her body all sinew and sharp angles, her hide the color of tarnished silver under the moon. This dragon is young, her wings still carrying the memory of the egg's damp warmth, but her eyes are old, old enough to know the stories, the foolishness of Smaug, who let gold blind him to the arrow's flight. The arrogance of Scatha, who thought time would never catch him. She has listened to the wind's warnings, traced the scars left by their failures in the rock and ruin of the world. I will not be like them, she tells herself, flexing her claws. I will be clever, but the night air is thick with temptation. Far to the south, beyond the jagged teeth of the mountains, a glimmer pulses like a second dawn. Erebor, the lonely mountain, its halls still echo with the ghost of Smaug's laughter, its tunnels still ripe with the scent of untouched gold. She snarls, shaking her head. No, that hoard is cursed, picked over by dwarves and men, its very stones steeped in dragon blood. Yet her nostrils flare, the wind shifts, carrying the tang of freshly minted coins, of rubies pried from deep earth. Somewhere, new treasures rise. Somewhere, kingdoms grow fat and careless. Her wings twitch. The north is cold, its riches buried under ice and caution. The world beyond is warm, reckless, ready. A growl builds in her throat, low and hungry. She is not Smaug. She will not coil atop a single hoard until her scales grow dull. She will not let pride be her undoing, but as the stars wheel overhead, their light glancing off her sleek flanks, she makes a promise to herself, one that dragons have made since the first flame flickered in the dark. She will take, she will burn, and this time she will not be caught. The first beat of her wings sends snow swirling into the black. The second carries her into the sky, her shadow darting like a blade across the moonlit peaks. Below, the frozen wastes sigh, their secrets kept for another age. Ahead, the horizon beckons, its promises bright as a dagger's edge, and the wind, ever a traitor, whispers of all the things she could claim. The fires begin as rumors glimmers on the northern horizon, seen only by shepherds and night watchmen who swear the stars themselves flinch when the light flares. By the time the reports reach the dwarves of the Iron Hills, carried by traders with soot-streaked cloaks, and wide eyes. The stories have grown teeth. Whole forests swallowed in a single breath, they whisper. Rivers boiled dry. The elders gather in the torchlit depths of the mead hall, their beards bristling with unease. They trace old maps with gnarled fingers, their voices dropping to graveled whispers. The desolation, one mutters, and the word hangs heavy as an anvil in the air. They remember the scars, the charred husks of villages, the way the wind once carried the stench of molten gold for leagues. But the younger dwarves scoff into their tankards, their axes gleaming at their belts. Let the dragon come, they grow, thumping fists on oak tables. Our forges burn hotter than any beast's breath. They speak of new alloys, of armor forged in secret fires, of crossbows that could pierce the moon. Their confidence is a living thing, fed on tales of their ancestors' victories. Never mind that those same ancestors now sleep in stone tombs, their bones laced with old burns. Deep below the iron hills, where the torchlight dares not wander, the mountain's roots hum with a different sort of heat. The air here is thick with the reek of sulfur and something sweeter, something like greed. Gold piles in jagged mounds, pride from veins the dwarves haven't yet tapped. Rubies glint like droplets of old blood, and atop it all, coiled in smug repose, she watches. The silver dragon, though she prefers quicksilver, for the way she slips between shadow and flame, flicks her tail, sending a cascade of coins clattering. The sound echoes through the tunnels, a mocking applause for the dwarves above. They dig so eagerly, so blindly, never realizing their pickaxes are carving her throne. She learned from Smaug's mistakes. Why waste energy raising a kingdom when you can let it dig its own grave? A chuckle rumbles in her chest, low and liquid. The dwarves hear it as distant thunder, as the groan of settling stone. They do not recognize the truth. It is the sound of a trap snapping shut. Above ground, the elders eye the horizon, their hands tight on their amulets. The young sharpen their blades, laughing, and beneath their boots, the mountain holds its breath. The last embers of Smaug's fire fade beneath the lake's dark waters, but the ash left behind tells a different story, one written in scorched stone and trembling memories. The people of Lake Town count their dead, their hands still shaking as they rebuild, while in the halls of Erebor, the dwarves walk softly past empty treasure vaults, their footsteps echoing like the ghost of a dragon's laugh. They tell themselves the age of fire is over. They are wrong. Dragons do not die, not truly. Their flames may gutter out, their bones may crumble to dust, but their hunger lingers, in the way gold seems to whisper when left too long in the dark, in the way kings clutch their crowns a little tighter at the sound of wind through mountain passes. The great worms of old understood this truth. They were never just creatures of scale and flame. They were ideas given teeth, and ideas, once kindled, cannot be drowned. Look to the north, where the ice groans underfoot, and the wind carries voices too old for mortal tongues. There, beneath glaciers that remember the first dawn, something shifts. A scale glints where no light should reach. A breath stirs the permafrost. The world forgets, but the earth remembers. It always does. And when the time is right, when the mines grow too deep, when the vaults overflow, when men and dwarves forget to fear the shadows between the stars, the ice will crack. The wind will change, and the dragons will return, not as they were, perhaps, but close enough, for greed is a language that needs no translation, and gold shines just as bright in any age. The stars turn overhead, indifferent. Somewhere, a child asks why the mountains seem to breathe at night. Somewhere, a thief pockets a single coin and feels it burn through his pocket. And far below, in the dark where no living thing dares to wander, the earth stirs. The tale never ends. It only sleeps.